Arch Manning, Ty Simpson, Diego Pavia. Who were our Week 6 winners and losers of the weekend? Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. On today's show, we'll give you our winners and our losers from Week 6 in the SEC. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to our everydayers. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download FanDuel today. All right, we will dive into it. Switch things up. We're going to start with our losers this week. Who depressed us this week? And then segment 2, we'll get to our winners of the weekend. But there was just too much disappointment happening this week. So we got to start with the disappointments. And we will start with Arch Manning over at Texas. Huge upset for Florida. Down in the swamp, beating Arch Manning and the Texas Longhorns 29-21 in the swamp. Arch Manning just 16 of 29, 263 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. If you just look at the box score, you go, it's not so bad. But he was under duress all day. Did have 37 rushing yards, but took a number of sacks. And Florida just bottled him up, bottled up the run game for Texas. How about Trey Wisner? 8 carries for 11 yards. He was the 3rd leading rusher in the SEC last year. Florida just took away the run game, and Arch was under duress all day long. Texas, which came in averaging 438 yards per game, 31 points a game, they were held to just 341 yards. And, of course, the 21 points. For Longhorns coach Steve Sarkisian, the loss was his first in 18 games at Texas when his team was ranked in the top 10 and facing an unranked opponent. I believe the last time was, they said, 2022 against Texas Tech. Last time he lost to an unranked opponent. So, tough loss for the Longhorns. And, I mean, now you look at the standings and you go, where does this team go from here? Because, look, we all thought, okay, a good loss in week 1 to Ohio State, you know, they'll get credit for that loss. But you get really sketchy when we get into the conversation of, at the end of the year, you know, if they finish 10-2, they're in the playoff, right? But 9-3 is where you get it gets kind of sketchy. And, you know, again, good loss to Ohio State week 1. You think that'll be a good loss at the end of the year. But, you know, who would your other loss be to? And I'm staring down the barrel of a top 10 Oklahoma team this week. You know, you lose this one, goodness, you have no margin for error. Now, game at Kentucky, winnable. Game at Mississippi State, winnable. Home game against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's good, but you should win that one. At Georgia is going to be the tough one. Now, again, Georgia hasn't looked like old Georgia for much of the season, but who knows? They could be humming by mid-November. You're at home against Arkansas, and then the season finale against A&M is brutal. You know, that one could come down to the wire like last year. Like, in other words, whoever wins that game is going to Atlanta. You know, maybe it's on the line, but that would mean Texas runs the table the rest of the way. And it's just going to be a tough ask. But again, I think they can beat Kentucky. I think they can beat Mississippi State. I think they can beat Vandy. I think they can beat Arkansas. It's the game against Oklahoma this weekend. It's all going to depend if John Napier can go or if it's Michael Hawkins. I think that's advantage Longhorns. And then, of course, the A&M game. So, look, precarious spot for the team that was preseason number 1. But, look, Texas isn't alone. Penn State was a preseason top 5 team. They lost. Clemson was a top 5 team preseason. They've lost a lot. So, you know, Texas isn't alone, but they got a lot of work to do in Arch. I mean, look, I said he was going to go through his growing pains this year. I thought he'd have a roller coaster. I thought he'd have his ups and his downs, but a lot of downs, not a whole lot of ups for Arch. So They got to work on that passing game. All right, another loser of the weekend. I got to just squeeze this in here. Florida fans, what do you do now with Billy Napier? Like, this is the tough part. Like, I'm all for a big win and all this. And look, awesome to see the Swamp rocking. But if Napier had lost this one, what? He would have been 1-4, 1-5, whatever. Like, he would have been well on his way to being fired. I mean, you're 2-3 overall, 1-1 in the conference. Napier is 21-22 as head coach, so he's still sub 500, 11-15 in SEC play. But this week, Florida plays at A&M, the Gators' fourth top 10 opponent in their first 6 games. I mean, the schedule's still brutal. I just, again, like, this just puts you in a precarious spot if you're a Florida fan. Like, you want your team to do well, but, like, do we tread water with Napier? If he wins a few more games, does this save his job and comes back again next year? This is a tough spot. And I'm not saying you root against your team, but kind of was getting to that point, right? Like, if you're a Florida fan and you want Billy Napier gone, losing games is what helps Billy Napier be gone. So, tough spot. All right, another loser of the weekend. How about Diego Pavia? Alabama absolutely silencing Diego Pavia and Vandy's undefeated season, beating them 30-14. Pavia and Vandy played their butts off in the first half. I'll give them that. But Bama's D made some halftime adjustments, and Kane Womack, they brought it. Bama shuts out Vandy in the second half. This was a flip of last year. You know, Vandy was the one this year that turned the ball over a couple times and had costly penalties. Last year was Bama in Nashville. So this is what playing on the road is so hard. And I thought the fans of Tuscaloosa brought it. That place is rocking, but Diego held to just 198 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 12 rushes for 58 yards, also lost a red zone fumble that was very costly. And a lot of Bama fans saying, well, you ran your mouth. Look, the line this is what Diego Pavia, all he had to say last week was, if we go in there and play our game between the white lines, I think we're going to have a good chance to win. Instead, his quote was, you know, if we go in there and play our game, it won't be close. That's where it was like total disrespect to Alabama. And I get Bama fans and the like taking exception to it. In fact, Alabama defensive end LT Overton posted on his social media a screen cap of that quote. If we play our game, it won't be close. So you kind of have to eat it, Diego. I'm all for the confidence of the swagger, but you say a line like that, if we play our game, it won't be close. Well, the problem is you didn't play your game. I mean, you know, fumbled the ball away, threw a bad pick. Keon Sabb, great play by him. And good win for Alabama. But Bama's still got a tough next 5 games of brutal. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but Bama's doing what they need to do right now. Kalen DeBoer's doing a good job. I think Vandy is going to be very interesting to see how they handle these next couple weeks because, okay, he got punched in the mouth. How do you rebound? How do you bounce back? And look at Vandy's schedule coming up. They get a bye week. Then it's LSU, Mizzou, both top 15 teams, at Texas. Texas may be ranked again by then. Auburn, we'll see what they look like come November. Kentucky should be simple. And then you finish at Tennessee, who's number 12 team in the country right now. So Vandy's not out of the woods just yet. Can they go, whatever, 5-1 and go 10-2 and make the playoff? They could. I don't think it's likely. But still viable. Still a chance for Vanderbilt. Not counting them out fully yet. All right, another loser of the weekend. How about the Mississippi State defense and offense? I'm putting them both in here. A&M beats Mississippi State 31-9. Look, the Aggies led just 7-3 at halftime. Took a while for the A&M's offense to get going, but the Bulldogs just could not get anything going on offense all night. Only 219 yards of total offense for Jeff Levy's squad, just 1 for 10 on third downs. Blake Shapen threw an interception. Anthony Evans lost a fumble. And after the feel-good 4-0 start for State, they've now lost 2 in a row and are 0-2 in the SEC. And Mississippi State's remaining schedule is absolutely brutal. They were at Florida, home for Texas, at Arkansas, it's winnable, home versus Georgia, at Mizzou, home versus Ole Miss. I mean, those last 3 are all against team's currently ranked in the top 14. So Mississippi State, much improved. Give Jeff Lebby a lot of credit, but they still got a little work to do, man. Like I said, they just ran out of gas offensively and defensively. And our last loser of the weekend here in this group, I got to put Mark Stoops in here. Georgia rolls Kentucky 35-14 to improve to 4-1. Georgia led 21-7 at halftime, but Kentucky, they had a chance to get points right before half, and they botched it. 2 sacks for the Georgia defense. Ellis Robinson did have an interception, but Kentucky's defense, they had 2 picks in this one. And look, Wildcat fans, I think, can be a little bit encouraged. Quarterback Cutter Boley, I thought, battled. 25 of 41, 225 yards, did throw 2 touchdown passes. But to me, Mark Stoops counting his days in Lexington. Kentucky now 2-3 overall, 0-3 in the SEC. Here's the rest of their schedule. Home versus Texas, home versus Tennessee, at Auburn, home versus Florida. Tennessee Tech, they'll win that one. And then they finish the year at Vandy and at Louisville. And here's the real popper for Mark Stoops. Kentucky is now 1-12 in their last 13 SEC games. Not going to get it done. And if it continues down this path, I don't think Mark Stoops will finish out the year in Lexington. We shall see. All right, still more to come here on Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. When we return, we'll switch to the positive side. We'll give you our winners of the weekend. That's next. Hey, first, a quick message from our friends at Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It is their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. You're going to love how the Peloton IQ system will offer real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. And the swivel screen is a game changer. You can go from running on the tread to strength training without missing a beat. And the personalized class recommendations will keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. That's ONE Peloton.com. All right, we're along here, Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And we give you our losers of the weekend. It's time to give you our winners of the weekend. And first up, I know we kind of talked about the Florida fans, but how about the Swamp? I got to give love to the Swamp. Saw one of Texas's beat writers say that was the loudest stadium he has ever been in. That was pretty impressive. I mean, again, the guy cited a bunch of stadiums he's been in, Big 12 stadiums, SEC stadiums. He said the Swamp was the loudest he's experienced. And people I've talked to who were at the game said the Florida fans absolutely brought it, wanted to get this upset win over Steve Sarkisian and the Texas Longhorns, and they did it. And it's crazy because DJ Lagway, I mean, he was hobbled throughout the game. You could see early on, he was kind of limping around. He was playing through it. And I believe, no recorded sacks for Texas in this one. So props to the Florida offensive line. They really, they did a fantastic job blocking, opening up holes. Jaden Ball with his second 100-yard rushing game this season, third of his career. Gators grounded out for 159 yards against the nation's number 3 rush defense. Texas was allowing just 59 yards per game. And like we said, did not allow Lagway to be sacked. Their defense, 6 sacks for the Florida defense. They absolutely brought it. But another winner of the weekend in this one, how about the freshman Dallas Wilson? Welcome to Gainesville. 6 catches for 111 yards, 2 touchdowns in his college debut. It was the best debut for a freshman receiver at Florida in program history. His catches, yards, and touchdowns were all single-game records for a Florida freshman receiver playing in his first college game. I said it last week, guys, and I was trying not to be hyperbolic about it, but I was like, this dude set spring game records for them in receptions and yards. And I'm like, I get, like, because when I said this was a spring game, okay, if it was so easy, why doesn't every freshman do it, right? Like, he clearly is a special talent. And man, if you're Florida, you just got to wonder, like, wish we would have had this guy the first couple weeks. How different things could have been if we had him against Miami, if we had him against LSU, heck, against South Florida. You probably don't lose that game if you have a Dallas Wilson freak talent pushing Texas defenders to the ground as he runs into the end zone for a touchdown. I mean, it was insane. So, look, big-time weapon. Welcome to the Gators, Dallas Wilson. Again, hampered with that, I think it was a foot injury he had in fall camp and missed the start of the season. But he's ready to go. And now the Gators. You head to College Station against Texas A&M. They've got some stud receivers in Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver. Let's see what Dallas Wilson can do for the Florida Gators and get loose perhaps this weekend. All right, another winner of the weekend. How about Ty Simpson over in Tuscaloosa? Alabama, like we said, beats Vanderbilt 30-14, but Ty Simpson outstanding in this one, throwing for 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Simpson remains among the top of the SECs in terms of quarterback play, with another game above a 75% completion rate, his third in 4 games. It's crazy. Like, we now just like blink, when we see an SEC quarterback throw for 300 yards, but like, that used to be a tough feat. Like, it used to be really hard to do that. And Ty Simpson's making it look easy out there. So, got to give him props, man. A guy who sat and waited his turn, and he is delivering. Look, everybody poo-pooed on him week 1. He did not play well against Florida State. I get it. But I said I said after that week, I said, everybody stay steadfast. I think Ty Simpson's going to get better here. And he has been awesome the last couple weeks, and give him a lot of credit and major props. Other guys in Alabama, Jam Miller with a near career day, 22 carries, 136 yards, and a touchdown. What a difference maker he has made to this Alabama offense since getting back in there healthy. By the way, his second to his best career day came against USF last year, where he had 140 yards rushing. But receiving wise, Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard continue to be a dangerous 1-2 punch at wide receiver. Still some drops here and there from those two guys. If they can clean that up, they're going to be that much more lethal. Defensively, Justin Jefferson led the Bama defense of 14 tackles and a sack. I thought he was outstanding. And these next 5 games for Bama are going to tell us just how good they are. They are at Mizzou this weekend, home versus Tennessee, at South Carolina, who's still dangerous, home versus LSU, and home versus Oklahoma. Now, the good news is 3 of those 5 are at home. I look at it this way. Bama can go 4-1 in that stretch. I know Bama fans are going to say, we're going undefeated. Okay, 4-1, and I think it's realistically speaking. If you go 4-1, you're going to go to the Iron Bowl with a chance to finish 10-2 and go to the playoff. If you go 3-2 in these next 5, you couple that with the week 1 loss to FSU, it's going to get into that whole measuring contest of, well, but our win over Georgia was good. It's like, can they get in as a 9-3 team? I think so, because of the new metric that they added this year in the, that with strength of schedule being a metric now for the College Football Playoff Committee. All right, another winner of the weekend. I got to go with Texas A&M's defense and run game. A&M beats Mississippi State 31-9. Aggies led just 7-3 at halftime. And like we said, the run game just wore down the Bulldogs in the second half, rushed for over 300 yards of the night. Ruben Owens led the way, 21 carries, 142 rushing yards. Receivers, Mario Craver, Casey Concepcion continue to be awesome in the receiving game. Casey with 2 touchdowns in this one. He is tied for 9th in the country with 5 touchdown catches on the year. A&M's defense, 4 sacks on the night. Damian Sanford with an interception. And I just think A&M's defense has looked so much better, obviously, these past 2 weeks at home. Remember, 3 weeks ago, they gave up 40 on the road at Notre Dame. But since then, just 10 points to Auburn and 9 points to Mississippi State. What are they going to do against Florida this weekend? Now, one thing that jumped out to me, I'm like, wait, they play Florida at home this week? That's 3 straight home SEC games for Texas A&M. Well, after this Florida game next, they have 3 straight on the road in the SEC. At Arkansas, at LSU, and at Mizzou. And, of course, they finish the season at Texas. So these next 3 weeks after the Florida game going to tell us a lot about this A&M team when they go on the road. But again, they've got a built-in cushion. If you lose to, or if you take care of business against Florida this week, you can lose 2 of those 3 road games at LSU, at Mizzou, and at Arkansas and still be in running to be 10-2 and make the playoffs. So I like A&M's chances of where they're standing right now. I think they're in a good spot. Another winner of the weekend. How about Gunnar Stockton? Georgia rolled Kentucky 35-14 to improve to 4-1. Georgia led 21-7 at halftime. Kentucky had a chance to get points before halftime, but botched it, as we talked about. But Gunnar Stockton, 196 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, but his running ability, 6 carries for 48 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. It's that added element that helps this Georgia offense kind of stand out at times. Chauncey Bowens with a nice day in the backfield, 70 rushing yards. But the next big test for Stockton on the road at Auburn this Saturday is going to have to play well in that tough road environment. And then our last winner of the weekend, how about Oklahoma's defense? They beat Kent State 44-0, improved to 5-0. Michael Hawkins, all eyes were on him. The quarterback threw for 162 yards, 3 touchdowns, rushed for 33 yards and a rushing touchdown, but 5 sacks for the Sooner defense. They're 21 sacks, ranked first in the SEC, second in the nation behind Western Michigan. Sooners' first shutout since September of 2023. They are number 2 in the country in points allowed at 7 points per game behind just Ohio State. And they are number 1 in the country in yards allowed per game at 193. So Texas, that's what you're up against. The struggling Steve Sarkisian and Arch Manning offense. You're going up against one of the best defenses in the country this weekend. Now, I get it. They played Kent State, but they've been dominant since the start of the season. Now, the big question is John Napier going to return this week for Red River? That'll be a topic of discussion all week. We'll see when the injury reports come out later this week. Our Locked On Sooners guys think there's a chance Napier does come back. Other people I've heard said, no, it's going to be Michael Hawkins. So we'll have to track that as the week goes along. All right, still more to come here on Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. When we return, we'll get to the latest on the polls right here. Hey, first, this episode is brought to you by Square, your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood the neighborhood. These are the places that become an extension of your home, whether it is the sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, the spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved local chain that's been rooted in your community for years. These businesses are what bring people together. And when neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. And we're talking businesses like Bengals and Bandits in Baton Rouge, Catfish Hole Catering in Fayetteville, or the Oklahoma City Zoo Amphitheater out in Sooner Country. All businesses that are using Square. And Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnCollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square will see you in the neighborhood. This episode also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Of course, the NFL season is here. We're in the midst of the college season as well. And FanDuel still got that great offer that you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, you put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You're going to love how FanDuel gives you so many different ways to play, from parlays, player props, betting live in action. You can do it all. And some Week 7 lines already up there in the SEC. We've got Bama -4.5 at Mizzou. We got Georgia -4.5 at Auburn. We got Texas sitting as a 3.5-point favorite versus Oklahoma and Red River. So some action that you may want to get in on right there. Whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, roll along here. Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Before we wrap things up here on a Monday, let's get to where the SEC teams are ranked in the latest polls. We'll take a look at the AP poll. I think I counted 9 SEC teams coming in there. So not as many as we've had. We've had 10 in recent weeks, but check out that top 10, namely really the top 12. You've got Ole Miss at 4, Texas A&M at 5, Oklahoma at 6, Alabama at 8, Georgia at 10. So 5 of the top 10 of the SEC. And then you keep going. LSU at 11, Tennessee at 12, So that's 7 of the top 12 are from the SEC. Georgia Tech at 13, Mizzou at 14. So that's 8 of the top 14 teams in the country from the SEC. Rounding out the top 25, you got Vanderbilt at number 20. That is the AP poll. Now, the coaches poll a little bit different. Coaches poll kept Texas in. So AP poll dropped Texas completely out of the top 25. They said, road loss to Florida, you're done. You're not a top 25 team. Coaches poll was a little bit more forgiving. They've got Ole Miss at 4, A&M at 5, Oklahoma at 6, Bama at 8, Georgia at 9, LSU 11, Tennessee 12, Missouri 14, Texas 19, Vanderbilt 20. I would flip those two. Look, Texas lost on the road to Florida. Vanderbilt lost on the road to Alabama for their first loss. Texas has 2 losses. So I would put Vanderbilt slightly ahead of Texas right now. Again, those 2 teams are going to play each other in a couple weeks, so that'll sort itself out anyway. I'm just saying, like, right now in the moment, that's how I would have it shake out. But, yeah, just kind of takeaways from this. Obviously, Ole Miss on a bye, they get a bump up. Or actually, I think they didn't move. I think they were 4 already last week. But A&M gets a little love for Mississippi State win. Alabama jumps back into the top 10. Remember, Alabama was all the way down to like 20 or something. They're back in the top 10 with their last 2 wins. Georgia, they're into the top 10. And then LSU and Tennessee, both on byes, kind of slide up as teams ahead of them lose. So that's always the benefit when you're on your bye week. You kind of take advantage of teams ahead of you losing, and you can kind of move up. Mizzou moving up, though, to 14 in the AP poll and coaches poll. Good for Eli Drinkwitz and company, and they got some tough games coming up here. We're going to see what they are made of. All right, thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Reminder, you can catch college football kickoff every Thursday throughout the season only on Fire TV. Have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.